welcome to our lesson on factoring trinomials. When we learned how to FOIL binomials, we found answers that were usually trinomials. In this lesson, we're going to start with a trinomial and factor to find the two binomials it comes from. There are actually a number of different strategies you can use to do this, but I'll show you the one that I believe is the simplest to understand. For our first example, let's consider the trinomial x squared plus 8x plus 12. We know our answer is going to be two binomials, so first we'll draw two sets of parentheses. The first terms in the parentheses will come from the x squared, so we'll put an x in each set of parentheses. To find the second terms of the binomials, we need to make sure we use values that will give us an 8x in the middle and a 12 at the end of the trinomial. To do this, we're going to find factors of the constant term. In this case, 12 is the constant. When you're finding factors of a number, you want to make sure you find all of them. So let's start with the obvious one, 1 times 12. Next, 12 is even, so 2 is a factor, which gives us 2 times 6. Finally, 12 equals 3 times 4. But how do we know we got all of them? If you start with 1, then try 2, then 3, and so on until the numbers in the pair get closer to each other, in this case, once we got to 3, its partner factor was 4. And since there aren't any integers between 3 and 4, we know we have all the pairs of factors. But which pair of factors should we use? We could try each one and FOIL to see which one gives us 8x in the middle, but there's an easier way. When we factor this way, we need to consider what the factors add up to. They always need to add up to the middle coefficient, in this case 8. Looking at the factors we have, 2 and 6 add up to 8, so we will put a plus 2 and a plus 6 as the second terms of the binomials. Now we have our final answer, x squared plus 8x plus 12 equals x plus 2 times x plus 6. Now let's consider the trinomial x squared minus 5x plus 6. To start, we'll put an x in each set of parentheses. To find the second terms of the binomials, we need to make sure we use values that will give us a minus 5x in the middle and a plus 6 at the end. To do this, we're going to find factors of 6, the constant term. To factor 6, start with the obvious one, 1 times 6. Next, 6 is even, so 2 is a factor, which gives us 2 times 3. Since there aren't any integers between 2 and 3, we know we have all the pairs of factors. But which pair of factors should we use? We want the sum of the factors in this case to be negative 5, because there is a minus 5x in the middle of the trinomial. But the 1 and 6 add up to 7, and 2 and 3 add up to a positive 5. We're going to have to get a bit creative. If you remember your rules for negatives, you'll remember that multiplying two positives isn't the only way to get a positive answer. You can multiply two negatives together to get a positive. So, negative 1 times negative 6 would be positive 6, and negative 2 and negative 3 are another pair. Now that we have these, we can see that negative 2 and negative 3 add up to negative 5. So we'll put a minus 2 and a minus 3 as the second terms of the binomials. Now we have our final answer, x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals x minus 2 times x minus 3. For another example, let's consider the trinomial x squared minus 2x minus 15. To start, we'll put an x in each set of the parentheses again. Then we need to make sure we use values that will give us a minus 2x in the middle and a minus 15 at the end. To do this, we're going to find factors of negative 15, the constant term. To factor the negative 15, we need to have one factor positive and one factor negative. So we can start with 1 times negative 15 and negative 1 times positive 15. 15 is not even, so 2 is not a factor, so let's think about 3. 3 goes into 15 5 times, so we can use the factors 3 and negative 5 and negative 3 and positive 5. The only integer between 3 and 5 is 4, but 4 doesn't go into 15, so we know we have all the pairs of factors that are possible here. But which pair of factors should we use? We want the sum of the factors to be a minus 2, because there is a minus 2x in the middle of the trinomial. 1 and negative 15 add up to negative 14. And negative 1 and positive 15 add up to positive 14. So neither of those pairs of factors works. 3 and negative 5 add up to negative 2. So that's the pair we want. Now we can put a plus 3 and a minus 5 as the second terms of the binomials, giving us our final answer. X squared minus 2x minus 15 equals x plus 3 times x minus 5. When x has a coefficient, a number in front of it, we need to do a couple more steps, but the rest of the process is pretty much the same. For this example, let's consider the trinomial 2x squared minus 3x minus 9. To start, we'll put a 2x in each set of parentheses and rewrite the trinomial. We're going to rewrite it by taking the 2 and multiplying the 9 by it to get x squared minus 3x minus 18. Notice I took the 2 away from the x squared and put it with the 9 instead. Now this isn't normal algebra that we're doing or any special rule. This is just a method that we're using. So there is something we'll do later to account for this. Now we need to make sure we use values that will give us a minus 3x in the middle and a minus 18 at the end. To do this, we're going to find factors of negative 18, the new constant term. To factor the negative 18, we need to have one factor positive and one factor negative. So we can start with 1 times negative 18 and negative 1 times positive 18. Next, we have 2 times negative 9 or negative 2 times positive 9. Finally, 3 and negative 6 are a pair of factors, or negative 3 and positive 6 is a pair of factors. We know there are no more factors because 18 is not divisible by 4 or 5, and those are the only integers between 3 and 6, so they're left to check. Now, we want the sum of the factors to be negative 3 this time because minus 3x is the middle term of the trinomial. If we add each of the pairs of factors, we find that 3 and negative 6 add up to minus 3. So we can put a plus 3 and a minus 6 as the second terms of the binomials. But we have one more step in the process. Remember I told you that when we took the 2 and put it with the 9, we weren't following any algebraic rules. It was just part of the method. Here's the other part of the method that we have to do to account for what we did before. We need to look at the binomials to see which one of them has a common factor. The 2x minus 6 has a common factor of 2 because both 2 and 6 are even numbers. So we're going to complete this whole process by eliminating that 2 from both terms to give us our final answer, 2x squared minus 3x minus 9 equals 2x plus 3 times x minus 3. Now, this is a strategy that you need to practice a lot. This is again one of the fundamental skills that you need as an algebra student. So why don't you go to the activity and try to practice some of these on your own.